How do you feel when you switch to Geico and save on your car insurance? It's like getting right out of bed late for work, yet your hair looks immaculate. No blow dryer, no comb, no sculpting gel. Just a flawless look. As if you walked out of your house and straight onto the cover of a men's fashion magazine.
Good morning, Steven. Oh, have you done something new with your hair? It looks amazing.
They don't have the slightest clue you were half asleep drooling on your pillow not 10 minutes ago. Yep, switching and saving with Geico feels just like that. Get more with Geico.
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in to hour number 2 on Palmer Show on a Tuesday. Sharief, Ishaq, bottom of the hour. Talk some DBU here in 15 minutes. But LSU and Stetson tonight from the PMAC. It's an 8 o'clock tip, so a late tip. I feel like this is probably going to be the lightest crowd of the year, just based on the fact that the students are gone, based on the fact that you're talking about a Stetson team that's 1-9. You're coming off a loss, holiday season, 8 o'clock tip on a Tuesday. It just feels like this could be the worst crowd of the season. I feel like more people are going to show up on a Sunday against UNO coming up this week than there will be on a Tuesday night at 8 o'clock for the Hatters. I want to get most importantly into what matters for LSU in this game tonight, because that's the biggest deal. But I will briefly give you a rundown on the Stetson Hatters. They are 1-9. The win was on opening night for them. They beat something. Now, it's very rare that I see a new college that I've literally never heard of that is presented to me at this point in my life and my career. I spend a lot of time, whether it's baseball games, basketball statistics, going over schedules. Like, I see a lot of colleges over time. I may not be able to point to them on a map, but I've at least heard of them. They opened their season against a school I never heard of, and they won the game. It's called New College. I am hoping that's named after someone whose last name is New, and that the folks who created said school didn't just go, well, this is not an old school, it's a new college, so we'll just call it that. I've got to think that's somebody's last name.
Is it New College of Florida?
Yes.
Okay. They were founded in 1960 as a private college for, I mean, it doesn't.
It's a liberal arts school. I looked that up.
It doesn't say anything about anyone named New.
I mean, surely the folks who got together and formed this university didn't come up with the name New College.
It doesn't say anything about a person being named New, and that's why it's called that.
Well, that's a poor effort by that group of coming up with a name for that university. I will just say that. And clearly, they're a poor basketball team because they lost to Stetson, and Stetson hasn't won a game since. They're 1-9. The Hatters come into this game having lost 9 straight, as I mentioned. The net has 364 teams in it. This team comes in at 355. There are 10 teams with a worse net than Stetson. Their losses, they lost to Omaha by 3. They lost at the Citadel by 22. They went to Norman and got beat by the Sooners by 21. Toledo beat them by 25. But they've played tougher of late. They lost to East Carolina by 7, lost to LaSalle by 15, lost at South Florida by 2, lost to Mercer by 6, and lost to Florida International by 9. Not great for the Hatters out of DeLand, Florida. Offensive efficiency, 271st in the country. Defensive efficiency, 337th in the country. They don't do anything well. Period. That's all I got for you on Stetson. I looked through some statistics. None of them are worth rattling off to you, except the ones that relate to the things that I'm trying to see from LSU in this game tonight. And it starts with freaking turnovers. LSU has to stop turning the ball over at such an alarming rate. It doesn't make a lot of sense that LSU turns the ball over as much as they do. You've got Jordan Sears, who is a senior point guard, who has been manning the point for Tennessee Martin and LSU for over 3 years. You've got Cam Carter, a third-year college player who handles the ball a lot, that should not be turning the ball over as much as he is. Now, this is what we talked about yesterday when we were talking about the SMU game, and I will stand by this until I'm proven wrong in 3 or 4 weeks. I don't think Damian Collins is going to keep turning the ball over 4 and 5 times a night. I don't think he is. I think he will get into the flow of playing 25, 28 minutes and will do a better job of taking care of the ball and understanding his role on the offensive side. Quite frankly, like what he does should not allow for 4 or 5 turnovers. He's not dribbling very much. They're not running any sets for him. He's doing dribble handoffs and handling the ball at the top of the key every once in a while to reset the offense. Like it's not an intensive workload for him handling the basket. We had 5 turnovers on Saturday. That's got to stop. So the turnovers have to stop. But this is an even more concerning statistic than the turnovers, because I feel like turnovers, I feel like there's a better chance of correcting those issues than there are on the defensive glass. Beck, you pointed me in this direction, but I came up with this. As I mentioned, there are 364 teams in Division I. 364. LSU is 357 in offensive rebounds allowed per game. Now, let me toss a caveat in briefly on that statistic, because while it's unacceptable to be 357th in anything at LSU, like that should not happen, there is a reason why it's a little bit skewed. LSU is 25th in the country in possessions, so they play a lot of possessions. And this is a positive for LSU, the Tigers right now are 26th in the country in shooting percentage defense, which means they are playing more possessions than almost everybody, and they force more misses than almost everybody. So you're going to allow more offensive rebounds than a lot of teams. Not like this. Not like this when you've played basketball games against low-level teams to this point. Charleston Southern, not any good. ULM, not any good. Alabama A&M, not any good. You've played games against bad teams, and you need to wipe them off the glass. Great job on first shot defense. I'm with you there. Want to play fast? I'm all about it. But you got to get on the backboard, and you've got to stop teams from getting to the glass the way that they have offensively against you. Because here's the deal. When you turn the ball over 14, 15, 17, 18 times in a game, and you give up 12, 13 offensive rebounds, that is a lot of extra possessions for other teams and empty possessions for you on the other end. And when that gets out of whack, which it did on Saturday, SMU outshot LSU from the field and outshot them from the free throw line. It's hard to win consistently. Not all the time, but it's hard to win consistently when you're erasing your own possessions with turnovers and you're allowing extra possessions because the team that you're playing against is getting offensive rebounds. That's a big issue. I'm not concerned with Cam Carter having an off shooting night on Saturday. I'm not concerned with Victorious Miller scuffling from three-point range right now. I'm not concerned with the fact that Curtis Givens hasn't given you quite the minutes I thought he might. I'm concerned about Jalen Reed's absence. That's still there. But there are some pieces to this that I'm not overly concerned about that have been underwhelming at times. This is important. You have to get to the glass, and you have to stop turning the ball over. And that's really what I'm looking for tonight. LSU is a 24-point favorite over Stetson. They're going to beat this terrible basketball team. I don't have any issues with that. And by the way, caveat, Stetson last year went 22-13 and made the NCAA tournament. So I'm not going to blame Matt McMahon for this game being on the schedule. I don't love the next couple that are on the schedule. Mississippi Valley State doesn't need to be on the schedule. That's a team that was always going to be in the bottom 50 in the net. It just so happens they're dead last in the net. But this game against Stetson, like they were good last year. You just never know in the transfer portal era, especially with the low major teams, what that's going to look like. So, yeah, I'm bummed that it's just going to be an albatross around your neck that you're playing these 3 games. But this one I can see. But they're bad. And I don't care if LSU wins by 28 or 19 or 14. Like, I don't really care about that. What does it look like? What do you accomplish? Yes, the efficiency numbers do matter at times. Yes, it stinks when you're playing a game a couple weeks ago or last week and you allow a run late that cuts the deficit from 18 to 9. Maybe that makes your efficiency look worse. I think that's probably less of the equation than we make it out to be at times when you look at the net. So I don't really care what the margin of victory is, quite frankly. I just want to see a cleaner basketball game. And it's one of those deals where you're going to go into the PMAC tonight. There's not going to be anybody in there. No students, no crowd, no energy, no juice. It's going to be a morgue in there at 8 o'clock tonight. You got to bring your own energy because defensive rebounding is want to. That's a want to thing. Turnovers oftentimes are focus. Yeah, if you play against Auburn and they full court pressure for 40 minutes, you might have a couple turnovers there because they're just good at that. Stetson can't do that to you. The turnovers that LSU commits tonight, a lot of them will be on focus and decision-making, and that's stuff you can clean up. So I'll be in there tonight. I'll be writing about it on LouisianaSports.net this evening. But to me, this is not about Stetson. I didn't tell you one player on their team, one average, 1 3 points. None of that matters. They're terrible. Go out there and win the game, and don't turn the ball over and hit the glass. That's my breakdown of LSU and Stetson this evening from the PMAC. Beck, can I interest you in some LSU Stetson tonight? You going to be grinding that?
No, I don't think so. Unless Corey Kluber or Jacob deGrom maybe show up. That'd be cool to see.
Great Stetson legends there. Fun fact, many people won't know, Paul Maneri's first team at LSU in 2007 went to Stetson to play, and they got swept. And I was a freshman at LSU and mortified that this powerhouse baseball program that I had grown up with, right when I get to go down to Baton Rouge and go to all the games, Smoke has run them to a non-tournament bid the year before when I was a senior, and then they were terrible and got swept by Stetson. But I think they got beat by 2 out of 3 by Lipscomb that year as well. I remember listening to one of those games in the dorm. That's how cool I was in college.
Very cool.
But Maneri figured it out. They were good the next year, and they won the national championship the year after that. So it all worked out. I had fun going to baseball games in college. It didn't look like that when LSU played Stetson in his first year. If I offered you the opportunity to watch Elf on TV or the LSU Stetson game tonight, what would it be?
Well, I would choose LSU because Elf is a great movie and I like watching it, but I'm gonna end up watching it at some point before Christmas. So I'm okay with not watching.
We knocked out Frosty the Snowman animated version last night.
That's good. Good one.
28 minutes. I didn't realize it was
short.
that short.
Pretty short. Yeah.
My wife thought I probably won't use that on the air. She thought that it was a little weird, I guess I'll say.
it's a little bit off a beaten path, I guess you could say. But it's good.
Hannah Griff just texted me, called all 3 games in DeLand. Gross. DeLand is nice, though. So Hanny was there in 2007 when Stetson swept LSU. Corey Kluber did pitch in that weekend. DeGrom, I don't think was there yet, but Kluber did pitch that weekend for the Hatters. All right, we'll take a timeout when we come back. Let's talk DBU. What's Corey Raymond got cooking for the LSU secondary moving into next year? That's next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is the website. For your commercial property and casualty insurance, call the Highland Insurance Group. I know that a lot of folks who own businesses, because I was in the business for 7 years in insurance, a lot of times you just look at the premium and you just renew that insurance and you don't really pay much attention to what's going on. And that's one way to handle it, and it's the easy way to handle it. But when something goes wrong, whether it's a car accident, somebody's severely injured, whether it's a cyber attack that you didn't even see coming, maybe you didn't even know there was insurance for that. Maybe it's just a big old hurricane that comes through. After that happens is not the time to dive into your policy and see what you're covered for. The time to do that is before you renew. And the Highland Insurance Group believes that your insurance broker should be a trusted part of your team. Just like your attorney, just like your CPA, you trust them to make sure that everything's on the up and up with your business so that you can worry about running your business and let them worry about the crises on the other hand. That's what the Highland Insurance Group will do for you. Employment practices, liability insurance, crime insurance, cyber, D&O, umbrella limits, all that they can handle for your property and casualty needs. If you're a business owner and you're looking for an alternative with your insurance, check out the Highland Insurance Group and find them online at HighlandIG.com. That's HighlandIG.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Sharief Ishaq coming up in about 10 or 12 minutes, talking Saints, whether or not Derek Carr should return for any of these last 3 weeks, and what the heck is going on with the Pelicans, who have the second worst record in the association, as the kids call it. So we'll talk about that with Sharief coming up here.
I don't think the kids call it the association, hon. I think the old people may call it the association. How
many kids you know?
A lot.
You don't know that many kids.
I mean, I'm basically a kid compared to you.
That's true, for sure. I really don't know what the kids say. I should never say that's what the kids say.
The NBA, the league.
The league?
Yeah.
I hadn't watched much of the association this year.
I haven't either. You know, I went out and got an antenna so that I could watch the Pels for quote unquote free. And I watched a couple of games and they just kept getting blown out. I'm just like, I'm tired of watching.
There's no need to watch that. It's not good. Not good. So we'll see if they trade everybody. We'll talk to Sharief about that coming up here in a few minutes. We know how many of y'all watch our YouTube videos and Instagram reels and social media posts and whatnot. Some, the Spazzali ladies, track that more closely than others. But we know how many y'all watch, and we know when one gets rolling and gets cooking and makes a lot of views, and we know when one doesn't really get off the ground. And I know that a lot of folks saw my rant, maybe too strong a word, but thoughts, surely, on LSU secondary like 3 weeks into fall camp. And I went out there and I said, I just don't think these guys can cover that well. And I don't know if that was borne out for the entirety of the 12 weeks. I think they didn't get any stops when they needed to against USC in the fourth quarter. But they weren't just awful defensively in the secondary. But it just didn't look like I'm used to it looking. I've been going out to LSU football practices for 15 years now. And while I say this all the time, like, I don't know that, I think a lot of you that listen, that are such big LSU fans, would love to go to a football practice one day. You would think it was the coolest thing ever, or you think it would be. And maybe for that first hour, you would really, really like it. You'd be up close and personal with the players. You see the coaches coaching those guys. You see them go through the drills, see how big and fast and strong all these college football players are. And maybe that would be cool. But I can promise you after 15 years of doing it, like, you wouldn't just cherish every moment you were out there. I promise. I'm not complaining about that job. It beats the heck out of almost all the other jobs, going to watch them practice and then coming to talk about it. I'm just suggesting from an entertainment value level, it's not the greatest thing that anyone's ever done. But I do have fond memories of going out and watching LSU's DBs work under Ron Cooper and Corey Raymond, and seeing position groups, and I rattled these names off at the end of last week, but like seeing the 2010 and 2011 teams that had Patrick Peterson and Morris Claiborne and Tyrann Mathieu and Brandon Taylor and Eric Reed and Ron Brooks and Thorold Simon, all these guys that played in the NFL, and what that looked like, and the edge and the confidence and the swagger that those guys played with. And I remember going out to watch the 19 team and seeing Christian Fulton and Derek Stingley and Grant Delpit and like guys that played and that are stars in the NFL. And the way that group looked and carried itself. And I've watched LSU at corner and safety the last 3 years, and it just doesn't look like that. And that feels like too high a standard to try to grade on. I've chastised, big picture, chastised a lot of folks for comparing Garrett Nussmeier immediately to Jaden Daniels and Joe Burrow. And I realize I'm kind of doing the same thing in this vein. But you had it for so long, and it's so many different guys. I mean, I didn't even throw out the year where you had Tre'Davious White and Jamal Adams, and like those are pros too. So it wasn't like it was one standout here, one standout there. This is probably a total of 25 guys over 10 or 12 years that just looked the part and you knew. And I just don't know that I'm looking at that. And that has been troubling to me in the last two fall camps. I don't want necessarily to hear all that time about that 3-star that was a late ad that, they kind of turning some heads. Just tell me where the first round pick is, man. That's what I'm looking for. Because in Tuscaloosa and Athens, like, they got first round picks. In Columbus, Ohio, they got first-round picks. And forever, LSU had first-round picks. And I'm looking for that to resurface. And I think all of you are too. And there is no way for me to sit here today and truly forecast that. Because I can't tell you, there would have been no way for me to look at Deuce Chestnut or Jarek Bernard-Converse and pick which one would come in, fail, and go back, and which one would come in, play solid football, and get drafted. Like, I can't do that for you. One of them worked, one of them didn't. And you could basically do the same thing with Zy Alexander and the Richardson kid they brought in from McNeese. Like, both guys are big frames. They played at the FCS. One came in and was outmatched. The other one came in and was your best cover corner when he was healthy. So I'm not here to try to be a complete talent evaluator on the high school or transfer level. But I will tell you this. I trust Corey Raymond to do it. And I believe when he identifies players, there's a really good chance they'll be great. Yeah, it's easier to identify Derek Stingley and Jamal Adams. But I would go back to the guys like Jalen Mills, who is still in the NFL. He wasn't a 5-star all-world, Under Armour All-American recruit. And you've had some guys that have come in that haven't been as highly regarded that have become really good players under Corey Raymond, because I believe he can recruit them, I believe he can pick them, and I believe he can develop them. So you start to look at where we are from a cornerback perspective with this team. And returning right now, it looks like, and of course that's always subject to change, but it looks like you've got Ashton Stamps, PJ Woodland, and Javian Toviano. Toviano was very highly recruited, hasn't really helped for 2 years. Woodland came in and looked like a guy that was going to turn some heads as the defensive player of the year in the state of Mississippi, and didn't play a ton late in the season this year. And Stamps has won a starting job. Now, I would not look at any of them and project them to go in the first round as of what I've seen at LSU. But those are the three guys you got to kind of work off of from your base. Now, DJ Pickett is one of these dudes. He's Stingley, he's Peterson, that's what he is. And you hope that he's Peterson or Stingley and not, Kevin Tolliver, who was the number one corner in the country, who came in and was a nice player here, but had a cup of coffee with the Bears and wasn't the impact guy that some of those 5-star corners have been coming in. But you bring in DJ Pickett and Aiden Anding in this class, and those guys appear to be really talented dude. Pickett, big time. And then you'll get Jakeem Jackson and Mansour Delane. And I have no way I mentioned Deuce Chestnut and Jarek Bernard-Converse. I don't know which one of those applies to these two guys. But again, I trust Corey Raymond. And I was listening to Matt's show after further review yesterday, and he had the host from Locked On Gators on, and he said Jakeem Jackson looks like a dude. He played and held his own as a true freshman at Florida. He was a starter right out of the gate as a sophomore, and then he got hurt. But he looks like a dude. He's got some edge. He's got the size that you're looking for. I think that guy's got potential to be an all-conference player, and that I'll take that for what it's worth. If you tell me that Corey Raymond thought enough of him in high school to bring him into Florida, and now thinks of him enough now to bring him into LSU, I'm sold on that. And then Mansour Delane, hopeful. He started a lot of games, played a lot of football, and accumulated a lot of stats at Virginia Tech. And so you start to look at this group, and if you tell me that the chalk would be that Stamps and Jakeem Jackson are your two corners, but you've got Delane right there waiting in the wings, and then, of course, you've got DJ Pickett, and we feel like freshman corners are generally pretty ready to play when they come with that kind of pedigree. Eli Ricks was ready to play, had a couple pick six as a freshman. Certainly Derek Stingley was ready to play as a freshman. Certainly Patrick Peterson was ready to play as a freshman, and I don't feel like I'm speaking out of school to put DJ Pickett in the category with those guys. It doesn't assure me that he's going to be a freshman All-American and a first-round draft pick in the top 10 in the draft. But that's the type of recruit that you're speaking with him there. And then you've got depth pieces in Woodland and Toviano and Anding. And that's kind of where you are from a cornerback perspective. And to me, it would not be a shock if DJ Pickett and Jakeem Jackson were both top 65 draft picks, let's just call it that, when their time came. And that's, in the ballpark of what I'm looking for. DJ Pickett might be the third pick in the draft, and that'd be fantastic. But Stance with another year of seasoning, I thought he played better late in the season than he did early in the season this year. And then what does Woodland grow into? And what does Anding grow into? But that is a total of 7 guys for 3 or 4 corner spots. I'm hopeful that Corey Raymond is flipping that switch. I would have loved to have Cade Phillips. And if they go get another guy in the portal, I'm not going to complain about that for a second, because in this day and age, you got to go out there and cover to win championships. But this feels like it's trending in the right direction. It feels like it's trending towards 5 and 4 high 4-star recruits who come in and play at an all-conference level and move on and are high picks in the NFL and become long-term pros. That's what LSU was built on. Talked to my guy BT about it every single pre- and post-game show, and I'll talk to him about it on this coming pre- and post-game show. But I'm hopeful that LSU is moving very much in the right direction as far as cornerback goes, because I just have not seen the talent level that I'm accustomed to over the last 2-3 seasons at that position. That's got to change, and they've got the right guy at the helm of that position group to change it. So that's my thoughts on DBU kind of returning to form. Let's talk to Sharief coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com. Every car on the lot is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. Safety, pretty big deal when you're buying a vehicle. Of course, we like the cars to look nice. We like them to drive comfortably, want all the bells and whistles. But for a lot of folks, what's the safety situation? And at Genesis, I can promise you, you're getting one of the safest cars on the road. The entire line of Genesis, not a single exception, was given the IIHA top safety pick. And a couple of them were top safety picks plus. Every single car in the line of vehicles starts with the same high-end safety features. They take that seriously at Genesis. Get on by and ask their brand ambassadors about those safety features. They'll give you the information. You can get behind the wheel and enjoy that test drive. And some people go, I don't want to go to the dealership to test drive. They can come to you. They'll come to your office. They'll come to your house to get you on that test drive over at Genesis of Baton Rouge. They're at Airline Highway and PQ across from Women's Hospital. Genesis of Baton Rouge. You can find them online, genesisofbatonrouge.com, genesisofbatonrouge.com.
Welcome back to the Hunt Palmer Show. Here's your host, Hunt, the uniform czar, Palmer. Which uniform do you hate now?
All right, we got to talk some New Orleans stuff with our guy Sharief Ishaq from WDSU down there in the Big Easy. The Pelicans have the second worst record in the NBA. The Saints quarterback is hurt and may not come back this year. They got to hire a new coach. It's just not a happy time, and we talk about this with Sharief every single week. I feel like we've got to inject some positivity into the conversation. Sharief, what is positive? What do we feel good about?
3 more games left in the season.
All right.
There you go. You want something positive when it's over.
All right, we got the report from Ian Rappaport today that's saying that it doesn't feel like Carr's going to come back. Nick Underhill of New Orleans Football kind of said maybe not. He's going to try. But where do you land on whether or not Carr should come back, what the Saints should do in his place for the last 3 games? Kind of what do you see there?
I think you gotta protect your investment, and I think in the long term, I just think that you have to protect him from himself, and you got to protect your draft status. So, I want to see more of Spencer Rattler. To be honest with you, I want to see what you have in Spencer Rattler. It's more about Rattler than it is about Derek Carr. I mean, look, they got like a 0.5% chance they're not getting to the playoffs. So I'd want to see more of Spencer Rattler. But he did well. I mean, he did well when he came in the second half. I mean, I thought he was decisive, made some good decisions. They ran some good plays for him. He didn't get sacked. I mean, they ran the ball well, injected the life into the football team. Kind of felt like how Darren Rizzi when he took over for Dennis Allen. So, yeah, I think you don't play him again. There's no way you play him again. You should not play him again.
Why do you think Jake Haener started that game?
I have no idea. I'm in the boat with you. I thought that Rattler should have started the game. Even though I felt very good about it, that maybe Jake get his chance, his shot, to show that what he has. And, times whenever he played, it's like when he came off the bench for Spencer Rattler in that Chargers game, I thought he played all right. During the preseason, he played all right. I thought maybe he would be a little bit better than that, and he wasn't. It was just, even though there were a few plays here and there that kind of threw him off a little bit. That first drive, you have the penalties and plays are getting called back, guys dropping balls, and not all of it is, like Rizzi said after the game, not really all of it is on him, but like a good bit is on him. And even he said it was not great for him, especially the interception.
I think you'll see Rattler coming up on Sunday. How big a deal is it for Alvin Kamara to get a 1,000-yard season?
Now that's the one you got to be careful with more than anything. You don't want to make sure that you don't want to really injure that groin or the adductor and really throw him into a surgery like Eric McCoy had on his groin and have him dealing with during the off season. I'd be very cautious with him. I'd at least sit him out a game or two and see if you can get him 1,000 yards in the finale or maybe against the Raiders if he's 100%. I mean, look, McCoy was hurt when he came back in that game against the Rams. It looks like he got hurt quickly. I think it was the Rams game. Whatever game he came back for, or is it the Browns or Rams? I can't remember. It felt like it was a little too soon. I think it was the Browns game after the bye week. So it was a little too soon. They probably should have held off on it and waited. So I'd be careful with him. And I know they want to get him his first ever 1,000-yard season. I believe he hasn't had 1,000 yards yet in his career.
He's never had a 1,000-yard season before, so that's kind of the
50 yards. Yeah, 50 yards away. I mean, I know that's a big goal of his. He'd like to get the 1,000 yards, but he's played with the broken hand and busted up ribs. So I'd at least wait till he's closer to 100%. I would not just throw him out there just to throw him out there in the season that's already lost.
Any other young players that you've thought have played well, whether it's the two tackles, the corners, Brazil? What have you seen from some of the young guys now that the clock's moving towards next year?
I really have been impressed with Brian Brzee. And look, I know he hasn't really played in many games, and he's shown flashes the last 2 games. Kendra Miller.
Yeah.
I mean, you always ask me about him whenever, when is he going to play and if he stays healthy. Look, I mean, the potential once again is there. Kendra Miller is one of those guys that I've really enjoyed watching play, and these last 2 games look good. But I would say at the top of the list, and without a doubt, it's Teliese Fuaga of the young guys, and even Trevor Penning. Those 2 guys have played well. I mean, and that's what you need, in the NFL is 2 solid tackles, and it looks good there so far. And defensively, Brzee, like I said, but I think I need to see a little bit more from your future cornerbacks, Delonte Taylor and Kool-Aid McKinstry. I mean, those are the 2 guys that are more than likely going to be your cornerbacks if they don't bring Paulson Adebo back. If Adebo is not the guy back, those are your 2 guys next year. But, I got to see them more. I see more of them, Monday night in Green Bay and probably nasty conditions, cold conditions against a good quarterback and solid receivers. And I'd like to see how they fare out in those situations against teams like that.
I believe the high in Green Bay on Monday is somewhere around 26, and the sun will be way down by the time they kick off. So who draws that assignment for WSU? I'm assuming not you.
The funny part is I don't think anyone's going to the game from New Orleans. No TV stations are going.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just how bad it's gotten. I mean, we had the game on our air because we simulcast Monday Night Football games when it's the Saints on ESPN, but the game got moved to ABC and nobody got mad about it. And we were like, yeah, I guess we're not good. That's fine with me. Green Bay is historic, been there, done that, but it's just man, no thank you in December at night.
Yeah, no thank you in a big way on that. I'll be passing as well. All right, so let's talk about the Pels because I think there's some news coming at some point. They've obviously got the second worst record in the NBA. What do you think is coming here?
I know that you're probably wondering if Willie Green's going to get fired during the season. That is a no because the players, he has not lost his team within the players. This isn't like a Dennis Allen situation where you started to see, players coming out saying things a lot of there was no connection. The players and coach were not, on the same page. No, it's different in that building. I don't see Willie Green getting fired during the season. After the season, probably going to make a change. That's the question you're asking. And if you're not asking that question, you're asking about Zion.
I'm asking about all the guys they could potentially trade here over the next month.
Trade. Okay. Well, we can go. I think that the number 1 candidate is the easiest candidate is Brandon Ingram. Then I would think the number 2 is C.J. McCollum. If they can find the right trade partners for both guys, they've I don't think they just want to trade guys just to trade guys. And you might either see them go off the board, or you might see them do something crazy, Hunt, like try to trade for players and make the team better. But they're not even going to get into the playoffs, to be honest with you.
No.
So David Griffin and company need to think, we need to at least get a young player back. If you're trading both of these guys, at some point you got to get somebody back for this team that, like, either a good 6-man or maybe a contributor that could be a starter and a draft pick. If you're trading CJ and BI, Zion's off the board, you're not trading him at all. So I would say those are the two trade candidates. Other than that, I think they'd be, they're set next year.
Why do you say that they're not going to trade Zion? Because that would be a bad move, or because they won't do it?
I just think that, like, no teams are going to send them what they want.
Yeah.
Like, I saw Bobby Marks put out that tweet last week to the Golden State Warriors, and it was in return for Wiggins and Pajimski and like a pick it looked like. I was like, say that out loud. Zion for Pajimski, Wiggins, and a pick. I know he hasn't played a lot, but it doesn't make sense, and it sounds silly. And you don't make a trade like that. I don't think David Griffin would do that, considering the fact they have him under contract for a few more years. And he does want to be here. To the contrary of like him not playing and him getting hurt a lot, he wants to be here. And he tried his best during the offseason to avoid getting injured, but it's unfortunate he keeps getting hurt. So, I think, he's going to be part of this franchise for the foreseeable future. Unless something changes, I think he's on this team for the foreseeable future. And I would say BI number one. And CJ is the question mark at number two. But they got to get, like, at least one player and a couple of draft picks out of each one of those trades. And even if they're, like, guys who are, like, coming off the bench and draft picks, because let me remind you, if they're picking in the top 5 like they should, if they continue at this pace, this draft is loaded with players. And this is the type of draft that you want to be picking top 5, top 8.
They're well on their way to doing that at this point with the second worst record in the league. Sharief, we appreciate some time. We'll talk next week.
You got it, Hunt.
Sharief Ishaq, WDSU down there in the Big Easy. We'll come back and close it out with some Take It or Leave It on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Make LeBear's Baton Rouge your game day headquarters all winter long. You can watch the games on their giant screen TVs. Would highly recommend you check out doing that. It's a fantastic game watching experience. You can tackle the area's best game day food. I highly recommend you do that as well. They got great food in there at ESPN Bet inside LeBear's, and the drink specials are great as well. Get in all the basketball and football action this winter with Penn Play and ESPN Bet, Penn's online sportsbook that is now live in Louisiana. Score big this season at LeBear's Baton Rouge. However you want to play. Must be 21 years or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700 for help.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show. Hopefully Hunt remembered to bring his laptop charger. Nah, there's no chance.
.104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge, and Citizens Bank and Trust are bringing you the ultimate holiday gift with our Home for the Holiday sweepstakes. Imagine 2025 with your rent or mortgage covered up to $18,000. We're here to make your holidays a whole lot brighter. Just sign up at 1045ESPN.com and you could be living stress-free next year. The winner will be notified on December 20th. That is this Friday.
All right, we're closing up shop here. A little bit, I don't know if disappointing is the right word, but some news out of the transfer portal. LSU will not be getting the services of Florida International. Is it Florida International? Looking. Jacksonville State is where he was. Yeah, okay. Zechariah Poyser committed to Miami. The safety, LSU had him in for a visit. He was actually, I believe he was on campus today. 6'2", 190-pound safety. Got 3 years of eligibility remaining, and he will be headed to the U to play in South Florida. So LSU still in the looking for some help at safety in the transfer portal. I don't see any other breaking news at this point, so I guess we can close things out with a little Take It or Leave It.
Take it or leave it.
Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
Just take it or
All righty, first one here. High school junior Blades Brown, the top-ranked golfer in the class of 2026, announced Tuesday that he's turning pro. Brown, of course, we talked about him a little bit last year. He played in a PGA event, finished tied for 26th in that one. And he will not play college golf and will make his PGA Tour debut at the American Express in January. Take it or leave it.
I'm going to leave it. I don't have all the information here, but I don't know if it's the time to force it when you're a junior in high school. I don't know how far he hits it. I'm sure he's a heck of a player, but I would probably finish out the high school career there and then maybe take a year in college where you're not really trying to force the issue. You can earn a lot of great stuff in the college game before you get into a professional game. I think at this point he's going to either have to rely on sponsors exemptions or to get into whatever he's going to play on the Corn Ferry.
Yeah, he's got sponsors exemptions. I think that's probably part of the reason why. I know it says in the article.
But he's going to have to go to the Corn Ferry, and I realize that not everybody's grinding like what 17-year-olds path to the PGA Tour is, and that's probably not what everybody's favorite thing to listen to is, but I feel like it's so hard to do. We gave that story last week about the guy, or yesterday, about the guy who came up one shot short in the Corn Ferry season and then one shot short at Q School. And now Q School's over, so I'm not sure what the future holds, so I can't speak exactly to it. But it feels like you're really forcing the issue here and you don't have to. That's a stressful existence to travel as much as you have to get it done when you could just develop in a comfortable cocoon of high school and a college program. So we'll see.
All right, newly minted Chicago Cubs outfielder Kyle Tucker had a media session about an hour or so ago, and when asked about whether or not he would consider a contract extension with the Cubs before he becomes a free agent in November, he said he would be open for any conversation about that. Take it or leave it.
Take it.
I'll take it.
Get him signed.
They're not going to sign
$400 million. Just write the check.
They're just not going to do it.
Just do it.
They're cheap. You told me that yourself.
I don't like that. Just figure
I don't
it out.
either.
Pay some money. They're all spooked because we gave Hayward $1 bajillion and he was the worst hitter in the league. This guy's better than Jason Hayward. Just give him the money.
But we were talking about this before. I mean, I said, why not move Bellinger to first and Michael Bush can just, he can go find another team. Put Bellinger
find another
at first.
team. He's under contract.
Okay, we'll trade him. But you said they're cheap. So,
they are cheap.
Okay.
It makes me very sad. I don't like cheap owners. I like owners that spend $1 bajillion.
Yeah, that's nice.
That's the way you're supposed to do things.
It is.
But the Cubs don't. We just run a tight ship. The Cubs are not a top 10 payroll in baseball. That is an embarrassment.
It is. Our last one here. The NBA will be adopting a new format for the All-Star Game in February.
Oh, I can't wait to hear this.
There will be 4 8-player teams.
Okay.
3 will consist of All-Star selections, and the 4th will be the Rising Stars champion. So I think there will be 2 Rising Stars teams that play each other.
Okay.
Whoever wins out of that will be the 4th team in this 4-team playoff format. And Charles Barkley, Shaq, and Kenny Smith will draft and manage the 3 NBA teams, while Candace Parker manages the Rising Stars team. The games will be the first to reach 40 points in a 4-team playoff format, as I said. Take it or leave it.
Is there any money involved?
I think so. I don't.
Because why would we play harder in a 4-team tournament than we do in the actual game?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't remember.
If we're trying to play hard, I feel like you got to put money in it. And I don't know how much money you would have to put in it to make guys care.
Here we go. The 4 teams will be competing for a prize pool of only $1.8 million. Each player on the championship winning team receives $125,000.
Okay.
You've
said enough.
Yeah, that's all you probably need to hear.
You've said enough.
Yeah.
$125,000.
That's like a couple of pennies to most of these guys.
That's nothing to
Almost
these guys.
all of the all-star players make that in a week.
Oh, in a game.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a joke. Yeah, that's not going to work. Adam Silver's struggling a little bit. I saw a Colin Cowherd reel where viewership's down 48% over the last 10 years, and Colin said his solution to it was to paint the courts neon. I don't know. I don't know how you do it. I saw some talk around. Bill Simmons had this guy who's a NBA stats guy on, and they were talking about the 3-point line and saying that maybe they should do something with the 3-point line, either move it back or get rid of the corner. There was some wild stuff, but
just the fact that the game now is just everybody shoots 50 threes a game.
I'm not the target. Maybe I am with the NBA because I don't watch it anymore. But I don't know why we have to jack up sports. We didn't do this for decades. And now we're trying to change the rules for everything.
Well, the NBA is a different case because the strategy for the game has changed so substantially.
So is baseball. Power pitching, strikeout all the time. Like that's all. Like that football, they throw it on every play now.
But honestly, I think the MLB thing is probably more exciting with the way it's changed. But yeah.
That's probably run its course. I just don't know we have to change everything all the time to try to get 12-year-olds to watch. But I guess money rules everything. We can't just do things the way we did them for a long time. Either way, we're done. Matt's going to drive you home. Back tomorrow, same time, same place with a Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.